Welcome to the home of Florida's finest everything. Naples, Marco Island, and the Everglades. They call it Florida's Paradise Coast for a reason. Bask in 30 miles of soft white sand beaches, luxurious hotels, and stunning beachfront resorts with delectable dining experiences. Take advantage of warmth, relaxation, and endless outdoor adventures. When you want a Florida vacation that's exceptional in every way, only Paradise will do. Naples, Marco Island, and the Everglades. Florida's Paradise Coast. Plan your visit now at paradisecoast.com.
Only the best will do for mom. So make Whole Foods Market your Mother's Day destination. Shop the floral department for vibrant blooms like tulips, orchids, peonies, and expert-crafted bouquets. Then head to the wellness and beauty department and give mom a spa-like experience with scented candles and more. And if you're hosting brunch or dinner, order flavorful Whole Foods Market catering by May 9th. Celebrate Mother's Day with Whole Foods Market in store and online.
Ignoring what your body is telling you leads to the majority, if not all, of the most painful experiences of our life.
Hey guys, it's Rach. Welcome to the show. I'm so glad that you're here with us today. And I have a favor, which sounds kind of harsh if we just met, but I'm assuming that most of you have been a part of this community for a hot minute. And so I gotta ask, are you subscribed to the podcast? Subscribing to the podcast you listen to regularly is one of the best things that you can do for hosts like me. It helps to support the show and the staff that works on it. It ensures that you never miss an episode when we drop a new one. And here's the cool thing about subscribing. If you do it and then you hate this show, just unsubscribe. It's one click away. In the meantime, if you're listening, we would so appreciate it if you would just tap that button and make it official. Hi guys, welcome to another audiobook mashup, diving into one of my favorite subjects, intuition. One of the questions that I have taught myself to ask over the last decade is to identify when I knew something was wrong. Not when did things go wrong, but when did I have an inkling? When did I have the nudge? When did I feel like my guardian angel, God in heaven, my ancestors, my inner wisdom, when was I getting that indication that this person, that this job, that this idea was no good? Because if I can identify when things went wrong, then I can maybe identify the feeling that indicates that things are about to go wrong in the future. Today we're going to dive into the chapter, When Did You Know Something Was Wrong? This is from the audiobook of my new book. And after that chapter, we're going to take a deeper dive. So if you want to go deeper on intuition, we're adding in a conversation about things intuitive people do. So you can listen to that and see if any of those align with how you live your life, or maybe if you need to take some more of those on board. I hope you dig it.
When did you know something was wrong? I'm what they call an Oprah baby. An admittedly niche term for latchkey kids like me who came home from school every day and watched the Oprah Winfrey Show. Basically, Oprah was our babysitter and, on some deeper level, the mythical mother figure we all dreamed of having. I have seen every single episode, and once they released the show on DVD to celebrate 25 seasons, I rewatched the classics yet again. I genuinely worry for younger generations who might know Oprah as an icon, but have no idea why she's so important. Y'all are never going to experience the magic of enjoying a mid-afternoon snack on the carpet in front of a TV with only 6 channels. On one of those local affiliates, Oprah taught us about redesigning your home, how to access your higher self, or what shape your poo should be if you're eating right. It's an S, by the way. We learned how to cook pasta, and discovered what to buy for Christmas and never ceased to be charmed by how only one of Julia Roberts' eyes would water when she was a guest. Even the pretty woman feels nervous around Oprah. Since I've seen every episode, many of their lessons live in my brain in perpetuity. They're forever part of the childhood knowledge you never forget, like the phone number you had when you were 8. 845-5465. One episode that has always stuck out for me more than most, probably because I was way too young to be watching it, was the conversation Oprah had with Gavin DeBecker about his book, The Gift of Fear. The conversation that day, based on the book I would read years later, was about the signals we receive from our body that warn us of danger. What I learned was that intuitively, our bodies always know when something isn't right, even if our mind is too disconnected to listen. The idea I've never forgotten, and that I still reference regularly 24 years later, is humans are the only animal that will sense danger and keep walking toward it. Think about it. A deer or a dog or a ring-tailed lemur, if they have a sense that something is wrong, they're out. They don't debate it or rationalize it or consult with their friends first. They trust their intuition and go. Humans, on the other hand, have been taught again and again to ignore the voice inside of us that tells us something isn't right. This is wildly dangerous when the situation actually is life-threatening. But on a more basic level, ignoring what your body is telling you leads to the majority, if not all, of the most painful experiences of our life. The devastating breakup you went through after realizing your girlfriend was a covert narcissist. The business partner who ended up taking all the credit and most of the profit before leaving you to clean up the mess from all the bridges they burned. The new job that seemed so great at the beginning, but ended up being a soul-sucking nightmare. I'm not talking about the regular real-life tensions and annoyances that will affect every human. I'm talking about the experiences where you feel bamboozled, like your life just went ass over elbow and you've gotten way far off course. You look up one day in bewilderment and think, how did everything go so wrong? If I asked you to, I'm sure you could come up with times in your own life when you were left wondering, what just happened? What just happened is that you ignored the intuitive animal instinct that tried to protect you. You know how I know that people keep ignoring it? Because I can always trace my personal blunders back to the moment when I should have known and done better. And so I've learned to ask myself and others, when did you know something was wrong? Not when did it go wrong, but when did you know something was wrong? Because here's the thing, we always sense something isn't right long before it ever goes wrong. Every single time I sit with a friend or my kids or myself and we're working through the emotional saga they're living through, this question will always stop the story right in its tracks. After I ask it, there's usually a moment of wonder or shock, anger or embarrassment as they realize the truth. Often, they sensed the truth months or years before. Sometimes it was in the very first moment they met the person that would become such a destructive force in their life. She was always so sweet when we hung out alone, a friend of mine told me over coffee recently. But then, when we went out in a group, she was so different. She became kind of jealous and rude. Even her face changed. It was like, I don't know, harder. None of my friends liked her, and they like everyone. Just like Bieber's mama. this particular girl ended up being a 9-month saga of chaos and drama for my pal. "And when did you know something was wrong?" I asked him. This normally confident man looked a bit sheepish. "Honestly, on our second date. Yeah, she was so sweet, but there was this moment. She said something rude about a stranger at the bar, and it made me feel weird." Weird how? Like, kind of sick to my stomach. But I told myself she was just kidding around, and I brushed it off. And now? Now I realize that moment, that was who she is. God, if I would just have ended things then. At another dinner, an author friend and I worked together to finish a bottle of Sancerre while rehashing a big project. Her work had become successful, and over the last few years, she'd watched her books turned into a movie. From the outside looking in, the process had seemed like a fairy tale, something most authors dream about. From the inside, though, it had been an utter nightmare. The producer she sold her book rights to ended up being awful. They alienated one actor after another and made the set hostile and toxic. Though in the pitch meetings, they'd promised to stay true to the beloved characters and the storyline. Almost immediately, those things were changed in order to be sexier or more commercial. She is rightfully deeply protective of her work and the fans who made the books a success, but once the project was in motion, it was a runaway train that couldn't be stopped. In the end, this friend would rather have foregone the Hollywood experience and the money and the red carpets to have not lost multiple years and creative control of the characters she'd spent a decade creating. We were sitting in a little bistro in Brooklyn when she told me all about it. "But when did you know something was wrong?" I prompted her. The tension came out of her shoulders as she exhaled. "Damn, Rachel, I knew in the first meeting with that producer. He had the resume and the clout, and he said all the right things, but something just felt off. So why did you go through with it?" She laughed at herself and shook her head. "Because it all seems so glamorous. Having a movie made? Imagine it. And everybody is so impressed and buzzy, and they're all telling you what a big deal it is. Who on earth would say no?" And that's the thing. Most of us don't say no. Most of us don't even say, "Can we slow down for a moment so I can think this through?" We allow people to rush us and push us into action we're not ready for. I'm not talking about bad or hard situations we knowingly take on because we have no choice. Needs must. Sometimes you say yes to the gig, the apartment, your dad's new girlfriend, because that's what has to be done. Life isn't always easy or fair. Occasionally, you gotta do what you gotta do. But there are plenty of times when a choice, at this exact moment, isn't necessary. We're so tantalized by the possibilities we imagine in our head, the perfect job, partner, vacation, experience, that we inadvertently slot something, anything, into that role, regardless of whether or not the puzzle pieces actually fit together. When you don't know what to do nothing. That's an Oprah quote too, guys. She has wisdom for every situation. Unfortunately, most don't slow down long enough to do a gut check. We care so much about whether something looks right, we don't stop to ask if it feels right. Or worse than that, we don't say no, or stop, or I'm unsure, because we don't want to be rude or we fear we'll miss out on our big chance. You know that Eminem song, "Lose Yourself"? Of course you do. It's a classic. It came on the radio the other day, and I was singing every word like I was about to challenge Papa Doc in a rap battle. But for the first time ever, the words hit me differently. Do not miss your chance to blow. This opportunity comes once in a lifetime, yo. I mean, yes, but also no, not at all. this particular day, this moment, and any opportunity that comes along with it, yes, that's a once-in-a-lifetime thing because everything is. Every single moment, every breath, every third Saturday, it's all once in a lifetime. I hope holding that awareness will make it all feel more sacred and precious and allow you to be present in it. But there is no such thing as your one shot. It's only one shot if you miss it and then quit. Otherwise, it's just an experience added to the list of things you experimented with on the way to inventing who you become.
Every day, thousands of Comcast engineers and technologists create connectivity solutions that change the way we work, live, and play. Like Kunle, a Comcast engineer who is focused on revolutionizing the in-home Wi-Fi experience today and for the next generation. Kunle builds powerful Xfinity Wi-Fi devices that deliver a fast, reliable connection with capacity to connect hundreds of high-bandwidth devices at once and next-level latency for the applications of the future, like augmented and virtual reality and cloud gaming. Learn more at comcastcorporation.com/Wi-Fi.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Look, going to therapy, it's a big investment. And I'm not talking about money, I'm talking about time and energy and emotions. But if you're going to put this much effort into taking care of your physical health, it stands to reason that you should put just as much effort into making sure your mental health is great too. So let's talk numbers. Traditional in-person therapy can cost anywhere from $100 to $250 per session, and that adds up. But with BetterHelp online therapy, you can save on average up to 50% per session. With BetterHelp, you pay a flat fee for weekly sessions, saving you big on cost and time. Therapy should feel accessible to everyone, not just a luxury. With online therapy, you can get quality care at a price that makes sense. Your well-being is worth it. Visit betterhelp.com/rach to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/rach.
After a decade working at it, I finally got to the place in my career where I get to work and travel as a keynote speaker. I most often tap to hype up a crowd, especially if that crowd is filled with a lot of X chromosomes. I am confident enough to tell you, after a lot of years being terrible at it, I'm pretty good now. And the most tepid response I've ever received from an audience was when I was the opening keynote for Oprah freaking Winfrey. Dude, we've already established what she means to me, and my biggest on-stage wah-wah happened in front of her. Can you imagine how tragic that must have felt to an Oprah baby? I felt like I'd waited my whole life for that moment. I'd imagined it for years. I wrote the idea down in my journal hundreds and hundreds of times, visualizing it again and again, long before I had the clout or the ability to make it come true. This is your shot, my friends told me. If you nail this, maybe you get your own show. Or maybe she becomes your mentor. OMG, maybe she invites you to Montecito for a sleepover. The list of possibilities we came up with in the car ride to Barclays Center in Brooklyn was endless. I went into that speech feeling so grateful and excited about what dreams may come. I went on stage and gave a talk the way I usually do. It was filled with lots of energy, at least one Justin Timberlake dance break, and a story about how I once lost a tampon in my body for 2 weeks. Humor is always the foundation of my work, and I wanted to be that way that day, even in front of Oprah. On every other occasion I've told that story on stage, the audience laughs so hard they can't catch their breath. And don't worry, even though my editor told me it was way too gross of a story to write out in this book, I'm sharing it with you guys in the audio, so stay tuned for the end and get grossed out or laugh so hard you pee your pants. Either one. But anyway, back to Oprah. I've shared this story a lot, intentionally telling it to embarrass myself. I do it because I assume everyone in the crowd is a bit like me. Maybe they also look at the speakers in their structured jumpsuits and flawless makeup and the imbued authority the stage offers, and maybe it makes them believe that the person talking is somehow more special than they are. But if I can stand on stage and tell you a story that's funny and, yes, kind of gross, I hope it makes you realize that we're all a little gross sometimes. And nobody on that stage is more special than you are, no matter how good her blazer looks. And you know what? That was not the crowd for it. 14,000 people were there for the wisdom and the upper echelon of classy that is Oprah and Michelle Obama. And here comes your girl Rach, wearing Levi's and talking about the way the tampon looked when it finally fell out of my body, like a recently hatched chicken. And it just didn't, well, land very well. Were there people in the audience laughing? Yep. Was Oprah one of them? Absolutely not. In fact, at the end of my speech, Oprah came on stage for a previously planned Q&A. And as she walked up, I tried to tell myself that I hadn't bombed in front of her the way I thought I did. "Girl," she said in front of that gigantic crowd, "I'm glad you got to the point because I had no idea where you were going with that tampon story." I absolutely died. My body was upright, but to this day, I have no idea how I managed to keep a smile on my face. 15 minutes of Q&A were still left with my idol, and all I could think about was that I totally failed in front of her. Worse still, I had failed by being myself. My dreams of slumber parties in Montecito went up in smoke. But then, a small miracle happened. I don't know where it came from because I was close to throwing up, but the universe offered hope, and I found a little courage. I came out of my daze, and there she was, telling me how she'd noticed my work and had watched my book's success. Then she leaned toward me and asked me why I thought people like my writing. I took a deep breath and explained that as a woman, I feel like there are a whole host of real-life things we go through, but we're not supposed to talk about them because they're not polite to say out loud. So then we all just suffer and struggle silently, thinking something is wrong with us. I think maybe people like that I tell stories about things like tampons getting stuck inside my body. It's real. Some women in the audience applauded and cheered. I knew there were at least a few people like me out there. Oprah nodded, in what I took to be understanding, which was enough for me. I never heard from her team again. Did that bum me out? Absolutely. Did it stop my career or keep me from communicating in my own style? Y'all, if it did, I wouldn't be here reading these words for you now. There's no such thing as a single shot at love or success or life, and if you buy into that myth, it will push you into situations that your gut, the seat of your inner wisdom, is trying to warn you against. So, when did you know something was wrong? Try a meditation or a journaling session and take a look at the negative experiences you've had in the last 5 years. Slow down long enough to ask yourself, was there a moment of pause? Was there a feeling? Was there ever a sense that I was walking down the wrong path? Chances are you'll find one. When you do, pay attention to exactly what you felt. What did your body do? Did your heart speed up? Did your stomach feel sick? Did you just know that something was off, but you didn't know what? If you can begin to identify some of the sensations you had in the past, it will help you identify them when they show up in the future.
I'm super excited for the conversation today because we're talking about intuition. And intuition, what we attract into our life, how we can be connected with our inner wisdom, how we can be better connected with Source, with God, with guardian angels, with spirit guides, with whatever you believe in. I think it's all kind of one big same thing. But whatever you believe in, this is a conversation about how you can get more connected with that. And to be fair, I have done a lot of podcasts around this subject over the last few years, especially as I was going on a spiritual journey and trying to learn more about it. And I was trying to think of how could I come at this in a new way or a different angle. I've done like 7 ways to be more connected to your higher power, or daily practices that help me, tap in, or all of that stuff I've done. You can go back. I'll have the guys list what episode numbers those are if you want to take a deep dive. What I thought might be cool is, what are things that intuitive people actually do? Sometimes that's a really cool perspective to try and learn something new, is not just to learn about it, but to actually model behavior. When we don't know what to do, it's really helpful to look at someone else who's doing the thing we want to do, and then we're like, hey, how do I do that? Oh, let me try and model. Okay, I want to be a marathon runner. Okay, let me go follow some marathon runners on social. Okay, I can see that they're staying hydrated, and I can see that they're doing this kind of training plan, and I can see that they're doing this. So that just gives you some ideas for the direction to lean in. And that's what we're going to do today, is 6 things intuitive people do. And this is according to me. I'm sure that there's other opinions and other intuitive people will tell you different, but this is 6 things intuitive people do based on your girl Rach and my observations. To me, inner wisdom is our birthright. It's something that every single one of us has, but certain circumstances in life drive us further and further away from that knowing. That can be things like grief or pain or trauma. That can be things like being in survival mode. Like if you don't know where you're going to sleep tonight, or you don't know how you're going to get food, you're not really sitting around going like, oh, wow, no, you're at the most basic level of human needs. Like Maslow has this thing called the hierarchy of need. I know I reference it a lot. But at the most basic level, you're just trying to survive. And if you're caught in survival mode, either a real one or the kind that we make up in our mind through anxiety, like when we get in that fight or flight, when we're in our amygdala instead of in the prefrontal cortex, that energy is going to separate you from the groundedness that you would need to be able to tap into that knowing. I think that every single one of us has this inside of us. But whether or not you currently have access to it, whether or not you can currently even hear it speaking to you, whether or not you are able to trust what you're hearing, these are all different levels of this connection. Whether you are killing it, you feel like you're very intuitive, you're super tapped in, or you're maybe, something's there, but you don't trust it at all. Or you're like, I've never heard that voice. I would love to understand how to get access to it. Here are some ideas, 6 things intuitive people do. Number 1, intuitive people ask for guidance. I am listing this as the number 1 thing because I think this is the foundation of it all. You ask for guidance. You ask for guidance, and you do that in a bunch of different ways. I was raised in a religious environment where prayer was a really big part of our life, and I vehemently believe in the power of prayer. It doesn't even matter what your religion is. You can look this up. There's so much data on the power of prayer, regardless of whether or not you are of a certain religion, regardless of whether or not you even believe there's a God out there. When you pray for someone else over a situation, it's incredibly powerful. So I was raised in a world where we prayed. We prayed all the time, and you would ask God to watch over you, and you'd ask for protection, and you'd ask for guidance of a certain situation. That is a fantastic place to start. If that's the only thing that you know how to do is to pray, you can do this in whatever way makes sense to you. But as you're trying to get more connected to something greater than yourself, or to get to know what's going on inside of you, I really love praying out loud. I think there's something very affirming about it. I think there's something very humble about it, asking for help and saying it out loud. Asking for guidance looks like prayer. It looks like talking to something greater than you, like literally being in a conversation with something greater than you. So for me, I'll talk all the time to, I guess I just want to establish this, and you don't have to believe what I believe, but when I keep referencing like God, universe, source, angels, spirit guides, ancestors, I really think that that is all part of one thing. So they're different, but they're the same in my mind. You don't have to believe that, but it might help you as I explain this. So when I talk out loud, I'll talk to, maybe I'm talking to my grandma, maybe I'm talking to a spirit guide, maybe I'm asking God for help, but I talk all the time. Preferably when no one else is around so they don't think I'm a weirdo. But I don't know, that makes me feel so calm. It makes me feel safe. It makes me feel like something bigger than me is in this with me. And yeah, ask for guidance, literally about everything. I swear, I wish you guys could get in the car and drive around with me so I could show you that I never look for parking. I never look for parking. There's always a parking spot. It's always right out front. I don't even really have to do it anymore because I just feel like me and the whatever parking spirit guides, like they're on it. And I live in LA where it is impossible to get a meter. Your girl gets a meter every time. It's just, right out, fabulous. Thank you. Where'd you park? Right out front. It's so silly, but I don't think that there's anything too small to ask for guidance on. And parking seems little, and maybe you roll your eyes at that, but I actually think that if you are struggling to trust in something bigger than yourself, it's actually really helpful to start with tiny things, to start with something small. I don't know if you guys remember a couple years ago, we did this challenge as a community called the $10 challenge. And I said, we were talking about manifesting and could you attract something into your life by focusing on it? And I said, what if we as a community, this meaning the people listening to the podcast, what if we all set a goal to find $10 in the next week? Could we find $10? So set your intention. You say it out loud. Universe, could you help me find $10? I would love to find $10. $10 would be so amazing. Like, would that be something? And then the whole week you're on the lookout. Where's my $10? Where's my $10 coming from? Where's it going to come? You're like super excited about it. You're not in scarcity. You're not like, why isn't my $10 shown up? But you're just like having fun and wondering, at some moment, am I going to be walking down the street and there's going to be a $10 bill? And we got the most incredible voicemails to come into the hotline of people telling us the stories of their $10.
I got in line and I asked the woman working at the counter if she had a coupon, and she said no, but she said, look down, seems like there's something on the ground by your foot, and literally crumbled up on the ground right next to my foot was a $10 off coupon.
And I get up to the window and the lady in front of me has paid for my Starbucks.
An hour later at lunchtime, I get that DM that I had won, and it was for a $30 gift card.
What was so fun about these stories was that people realized, oh my gosh, the $10 comes in totally different ways. And we got all of these amazing stories, and some people got like $100. And the point in all of it was that $10 didn't feel like a scary amount of money to ask. Like, it didn't really affect people's lives negatively if they didn't get $10. I'm sure if the community, if we're like, go find $1 million this week, no one's taking that on. I don't know, unless you own Amazon, because how would we do that? My point in this is you ask. You ask for the things you want guidance on. You ask, hey, help me manage this situation with my girlfriend. Like, we're really struggling and I really want to be able to like be a good partner, but I don't know how to help her. Ask for that. Hey, should I take this new job? Hey, is this boss going to be a great leader, or, is something off here? Should I trust that? So ask for guidance is a huge thing that intuitive people do. And I just want to add one more little asterisk to this. In case you're like, well, I'm not intuitive at all. I don't believe that. I think we all are intuitive, but something you might not realize is your intuition. If you're just going through life, you're walking down the street, you're at your job, you're listening to music, and all of a sudden you get like an incredible idea for something. This happens a lot for me. I'll get an idea for a book, or a character will come into my mind, or, oh, actually this happened with the latest book. I was like in final edits ready to sign off on it. And then all of a sudden walking down the street, I just got chills thinking about it. Like 2 stories sprang to my mind that were such good illustrations of something I was trying to explain in the book. And at the last minute, I went in and like rewrote 2 different chapters to include these stories. And I just read through in the audiobook. And I was like, God, these were so good. And they just came out of, quote, nowhere. If you get ideas all of a sudden like, you get hunches, you're not thinking about something, and then it's like, boom, you see something, you hear something, a word springs to mind, an idea, this like gut, like turn right, don't go that way. That is your intuition. That, whether it's your guides, your inner wisdom, whatever, that is a sign that intuition is speaking to you. Those aren't just passing fancies, unless they're like invested all in crypto. Okay, we're not going to listen to that voice. But anything else, when you're getting these little nudges, that's your intuition, dude. Some of the most successful things I have ever done in my career were ideas like that. I remember back in 2015, the first viral thing I ever did was this post of me in a bikini. I was wearing a bikini. I had stretch marks. I wrote about it. It went freaking bananas. It got like millions. It was like a whole thing. And it was interesting that happened because it was the first time that I clued in, oh my gosh, women really want to talk about this stuff. Like, women really want to have conversations about stretch marks and periods and having to get a hysterectomy and going through perimenopause and episiotomy stitches and just like all this crap that happens to us, but we're supposed to like hide it away and be demure. And not all women, certainly there's a lot of women who are not into those conversations, but that post made me realize that this was something that women like me cared about. So I started writing about it more, and eventually that would lead to my career as a nonfiction author. But that initial post idea, 3 weeks earlier, out of the blue, I don't remember where I was, but out of the blue, it was so strong in my head. I was like, I should write about stretch marks. I should write about stretch marks. I should talk about stretch marks. Now it's so normal to see women like their real bodies, not airbrushed, showing them on social. But in 2015, we were very much in the Instagram, Pinterest, only perfect. You didn't see that kind of stuff. That's why that post did what it did. It was not because I was so special. It was just like there wasn't stuff out there like that. So I had this out of the blue, like, you should write about stretch marks. And I kept thinking about it. And it just so happened that a few weeks later, I was on a beach wearing a bikini. And I looked at the picture and I was like, that's cute. But my stretch marks were really visible in it. And then I was like, this is when I could write about stretch marks. And the rest is history. But I remember that out of the blue thought, you should write about stretch marks. Be aware of when thoughts hit you like that. And you don't have to, if you're at the beginning of this, you don't have to like capital T truth, like this is who I would have. Just be like, I wonder, just get curious. Curiosity is not something you need to build your whole life around, but curiosity can be a great way to consider and explore an idea without a lot of fear that you're going to explore it wrong. I love home improvement. I love seeing other people's home improvement. I love daydreaming my own. I love planning out new rooms or redecorating the patio. And this is the time of year. It is home project season. And Wayfair is the best kept secret for all things renovation. Whether you're making a little update like new kitchen cabinet hardware or doing a full-scale tear down a room, Wayfair has you covered. Wayfair has stylish, quality home improvement products for every budget. They've also got free and easy delivery, even on the big stuff. And the best part, they'll help you set it up. Shop the best selection of home improvement online. Get renovating with Wayfair. Head to wayfair.com right now. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair. Every style, every home.
Every day, thousands of Comcast engineers and technologists create connectivity solutions that change the way we work, live, and play. Like Kunle, a Comcast engineer who is focused on revolutionizing the in-home Wi-Fi experience today and for the next generation. Kunle builds powerful Xfinity Wi-Fi devices that deliver a fast, reliable connection with capacity to connect hundreds of high-bandwidth devices at once and next-level latency for the applications of the future, like augmented and virtual reality and cloud gaming. Learn more at ComcastCorporation.com/Wi-Fi.
Okay, the second thing intuitive people do is they meditate. They get quiet. And I want to add my own caveat here, which is they do it in a way that feels good to them. Not everybody is able to sit down in that like special yogi pose and hold their hands in a mudra and meditate for 6 hours. Like most of us don't have time. Some of us, our brains can't calm down long enough to do that. So I say meditate, but in a way that feels really good to you. So I think that I get most of my intuitive conversations and ideas 2 places. One is on walks or runs. So I walk every day. Sometimes I go on long runs. When I'm listening to music and I get into a flow state and it becomes meditation. I'm not singing along to the music. I'm just kind of like in a zone. That is when I feel like I get the best ideas. That is when I feel like I get such incredible guidance. That is when I sort of rest more fully into what my gut is telling me about certain situations. So moving my body with a soundtrack is one of my favorite ways to meditate. The second place that I get my best, I feel like, intuition and kind of a completely different kind of guidance. And this is the first time I'm wondering if these are two, if it's 2 different spirit guides or one is intuition and one is, I don't know. But the other place that I get it a lot is as I'm falling asleep or right when I wake up. Just kind of the things that I have as I'm falling asleep. And then the next morning, it's like, I think you're in that state where there's not a lot of resistance and you're not questioning things. So the ideas and insights I get then are really fantastic. The headline of this idea of meditation, is just that you have to have moments where you get quiet, where you're away from other people. Driving in the car could be a really good one. A yoga class can be a really good one. Just something where you're, I think, kind of doing something else and your mind clears. I don't know if you have something that'll make a ton of sense to you, but that regularly getting that in feels super important, because if you can't quiet the noise of the world around you, it's going to be really hard to hear that inner voice. And it's going to be really hard to connect with source if you're so focused on everything around you that you can't tap into that. The third thing, oh my gosh, this is so freaking important, guys. The third thing that intuitive people do is they listen to their bodies. 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 Let's unpack it. Because essentially we are animals, right? Like our body reacts like an animal, and it will sense that something is good, that something is bad, that that guy is dangerous, that that girl is going to be a psychopath. Like our body knows. So if you can tap into when did you know something was wrong? Like if you can go back over your history and you look at things that have happened, that have gone, your world goes ass over elbow, and all of a sudden you're on the ground. You're like, what just happened? If you track it back, I do this with my friends. I do this with my kids. I'm like, okay, yes, he turned out to be the worst. But when did you know that this probably wasn't the person for you? Always, 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 always people are like, on the first date. Or, the second time I met them, I had like something. And then I ask, okay, what did that feel like in your body? Because it's different for every person. But if you can learn to tap into what does your body do when this is a good thing? What does your body do when this is dangerous? What does your body do when it's telling you no? You will immediately have access to information going forward where you're like, oh, sorry, I'm getting that weird feeling in my stomach and I don't really know why, but I'm going to go ahead and exit stage right. Think back. Let's go the last 5 years. Look at the last 5 years of your life and think of something that went really wrong. Now go back in time, run it through your memory and see if you can identify the moment where it started to turn, but you didn't get off the ride. You didn't get off the train. You didn't break up with him. You didn't do what you know you should have. If you can identify that moment, then maybe you can start to think about like, well, what was happening? Okay, yeah, I was sort of sick to my stomach, or gosh, I was feeling really anxious, or I felt very uncomfortable, but I didn't know why. Or my friends told me it wasn't that big a deal. Or, I had a drink and then I calmed myself down. I smoked a little pot and then it was fine. But when did your body try and tell you to listen that this wasn't right for you? The opposite is also a thing. Can you look at situations where it went so right? What was happening in your body then? How did it feel then? It's a really important lens to look at the world through, is to not go with the immediate, oh yeah, we're going to go do this thing. And of course, and you don't take time to think it through. Slow down long enough to ask yourself, to ask your body, like, is this the right thing for you? There's also incredible books and teachings about muscle testing. Some people use dowsing. There's all sorts of things that you can do, which is actually your body letting you know how it feels about a certain situation. You can research kinesiology. There's like a ton of great resources about this, but just start by paying attention to what your body's doing in certain situations. And this includes pain in your body, chronic illness, certain people, you get around certain people and certain things start to happen. Man, your body is talking to you. Can you trust it enough to listen? The fourth thing, oh, what a segue. The fourth thing that intuitive people do is they trust themselves. And that is so much easier said than done. But one of my favorite lessons I've learned over the last year is that you don't need to know why your intuition told you not to go that way. You don't need to know. You just need to trust that your intuition told you to turn right. When you start to just listen to those instincts, turn right here, don't go this direction, actually flip around the block, you know what, let's go this way. You're never going to know why that was your instinct. You're never going to know why your instinct said, don't do this thing. And you don't have to. I have a really specific one that is kind of like famous in our family. When I first started, I made the decision that I wasn't going to question it anymore. I was just going to totally listen to what my gut was saying. And my son had a football game and he was so excited about it and he was ready to go. And I have never had this happen in my life before or since, but I felt to my bones that he was not supposed to go to this football game. I don't know. It made me sick to my stomach. I just was like, he cannot go to this football game. And it was a bummer because it was homecoming. I know. If you're someone who lives, this wasn't in Texas, this was in LA, so at least it wasn't as hardcore. But I mean, some of you who live in like football communities are like, how dare you? But you guys, I've never had that happen. It was so strong. And I was just like, he can't go. And I went to him and I was like, Sawyer, I'm so sorry, but I don't think you're supposed to play in this game. And he was so upset, and his friends were upset. I mean, he's not like, bless him. He wasn't like he's not the quarterback guy. It's like, don't tell him I said that. He just, he's like, no one was, the game wasn't affected. But I was like, I'm so sorry. I don't want you to play tonight. And he was gutted, and his friends were really pissed. I think there are still friends who don't like me because he couldn't play. And I never knew why. I don't know why. I don't know if would we have, knock wood, would we have gotten to a car accident on the way? Was he going to injure himself in that game? I don't know. I literally don't know why, but I felt very strongly and I followed my intuition, even with the understanding that he was upset. And he was upset for a single day. And then he was totally fine. And he jokes about it now. He's like, yeah, remember that time you wouldn't let me play in the football game? I'm like, yeah. But I also hope that maybe that helps him to listen to his intuition as well. I don't need to know why I felt that way, but I trusted it. This can show up with like food that you're considering eating, a direction that you're going to drive home, like on the way home from work, a person that you just met. You don't need to know. You don't need to know. This can be little things in your life or super big things, but learn to trust that the only thing that matters is that you listen to what you know to be true. The fifth thing that intuitive people do, this one's fun. They analyze their dreams. They analyze their dreams, and I don't have like a dictionary of dreams, and I don't, write down my dreams. I'm sure there's some people who go super deep on dreams. I just pay attention. You and I both know that I assume you have dreams. Does everybody dream? This is the first time I'm wondering this. I'm going to assume that you dream like I dream. Some dreams you're just like, wow, I had a dream last night. You don't really remember it. It's not a thing. And then some dreams are so vivid, they feel more important. Those are the ones I pay attention to. And I have two for today's purposes where I had these dreams and I was like, oh, dang, that's crazy. Either because I feel like my subconscious is trying to work through some stuff. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's cool. Look at my subconscious trying to learn how to deal with this situation. Or sometimes I feel like I'm getting a straight up message from spirit guides, guardian angels, or somebody. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what this means, but I'm going to take note of it. So the two that I thought of today are when I was in pre-production for my short film. I don't know if you heard, I did a short film this August. It was so fun. I loved it. More on that soon. But I made this short film that I wrote, produced, and directed. I had never done anything like it before. It was a huge project. It was so scary. It was so hard. I loved every second of it. And when I was in the process of building up for pre-production and like trying to figure it out myself, for a minute I was going to like find a producer to do it. And that was too expensive, honestly. So I just was like, I'll produce it myself. When I made the decision to produce it myself, I had this dream, this very vivid dream. And the dream was that I was at the grocery store and I looked down in my cart and I had a baby. And this baby was like a year old. And I was so aware that the baby was like awesome. This baby was like happy. It was super chill. And people would look at it and they'd remark it and they'd be like, oh my gosh, what a great baby. Like this baby's so nice. And this baby's so well behaved. And this baby's great. And then I realized the baby only had a diaper on. And I was like, oh my God, I'm an awful mother. This kid's not wearing clothes and it's probably cold. It's a little baby. I need to get this kid dressed. So like I started to worry that I wasn't taking care of the baby the way that it should be taken care of. And then in the grocery store, I see someone from my past and not a good person. And they come up to my car and they look at the baby and they start telling me all the things that are wrong with the baby. The baby's ugly. Oh, hey, did you know that the baby pooped its pants and you haven't changed its diaper? And hey, did you know the baby's going to keep you up all night? And they start telling me all the things that are wrong with the baby and how hard the baby's going to be to raise. And by the way, that is exactly who this person was in my past. And that was my freaking dream. I was like trying to get away from the person who was talking crap about my baby. But now I was second guessing. Do I have what it takes to like take care of this baby? I woke up the next morning. I was like, whoa, my subconscious is really working through the fact that I am taking on a new project. Like, hello, women, if you got a uterus inside your body and you are dreaming about babies, yeah, maybe you want to be a mom, or maybe you're working on a project. That's a huge, look that up. Like, there's a huge correlation between creation, us trying to create something, and also it representing a child in our life. So I'm like, whoa, this is crazy. Clearly I'm taking on a new project. And now this like authority figure from my past, who was always the person who pointed out everything I was doing wrong and how it was all going to fail and how it was going to be so hard, they're showing up in my dream to do this about this. I was like, oh, this is the movie I'm making. Honestly, all I took away from that was like, oh, wow, this is incredible. Subconsciously, I'm scared of this. And subconsciously, I'm afraid of that kind of authority figure coming in and telling me I can't do it. But like, I'm figuring it out. Yeah, I'm afraid and I'm going to do it anyway. If I go back to the beginning of my dream, my baby was awesome. Was well behaved. It like sat in the cart, was friendly with people. So that tells me what I really feel about my project is like, this is pretty cool. So let's trust that initial feeling. So sometimes I have dreams like that where I feel like I'm aware of what my subconscious is working through. And then other times I get like a straight up message. I have to tell you guys this story. Probably 2 or 3 years ago, I had this visceral dream where my friend Kim, I've had her on the show several times. She's an energy healer. Like, she's amazing. I'm sure y'all know who I'm talking about. Kim came to me in a dream. Like, I've never had someone come to me in a dream before. She came to me in a dream and she said, whatever you do, don't work with, I'm not going to say the name. It's not a name I know. It's not a person I've met, but just in case, I'm not going to say the name. She said, whatever you do, we'll say Mary Smith for fun. It wasn't Mary Smith. Mary Smith, I'm sure you're amazing. She said, whatever you do, she's very serious, don't work with Mary Smith. She's like, it's going to seem like the best deal ever, but whatever you do, don't work with her. And it was so strong. I was like, that's crazy. I woke up the next morning and I was turning it over and over in my mind. And I was like, was this a message for me, or was this a message I'm supposed to give to Kim? So I called Kim and I'm like, hey, dude, I don't know what this means, but I'm just going to tell you this name. And if you ever run across a woman with this name, I don't know, but I don't think we are supposed to work. We don't work together, but I was like, just in case it's for you, here's the message. And if it's for me, also I'm taking that in. And I've never met someone with that name. And to my knowledge, she hasn't met someone with that name. But I feel really confident I'm going to, or she's going to, because it was so strong. And I'm like, what if Mary Smith is like, hey, I'll give you $10 million to dance the hoochie coochie on the YouTube channel. And I'm like, well, for $10 million, I'm like, no, Mary, I know that I'm supposed to stay away from you. So I don't know what that dream means. Maybe I ate too much cheese that day and it means absolutely nothing. But I do know that intuitive people, we analyze our dreams because we know the universe is talking to us in all sorts of ways. The last thing that intuitive people do, I'm sure we do a lot more than that, but the last thing that I thought of today, number 6, that intuitive people do is that we notice the synchronicities. Synchronicities are when things just align beautifully, when stuff just shows up in your world and your sister tells you that she heard that karate is really helpful for kids who have ADHD and her son has ADHD, so she'd love to find a dojo for him to join. And then 2 hours later, you're talking to a mom at school pickup who tells you that her son runs a dojo and they're incredible and they specialize with working with kids who are neurodivergent. And you're like, oh my God, how is that possible that I just heard this thing and here comes exactly what our family needs to help my nephew? That's a synchronicity. When you see things just align, and I really can't stress enough that it starts in small ways. And if you don't notice the small stuff, I don't think the bigger stuff comes. So we're constantly looking for how things are aligning or how things are setting up for us in order to have it all work out exactly as we'd love it to. So notice synchronicities, and there's a ton on that. I bet you could search podcasts or YouTube or books about how synchronicities show up in our life, but that's something I know that is really important, because when you're setting yourself up to look for those things, it's all part of a greater orientation for your life and your spirit and the way that you live each day, where you're like, okay, I'm open to this. I'm receptive. I'm on the lookout. I'm listening. I'm asking. I'm thinking through. I'm getting time to be quiet so that I can really make sure that I'm in touch with myself. I'm paying attention to what my body's doing. And the result is you grow your intuition in really cool and sometimes profound ways. And I think that the more we can learn who we really are and what our inner knowing knows is best, the better our life is going to be. I'm glad y'all have hung out with me for this long. If you dug this episode, I'd so appreciate if you share it with someone that you love. Get quiet this week. See if you can hear what your spirit guides are saying. I'll be back soon with more conversation. And as always, I love you guys, and I'm rooting for you. The Rachel Hollis podcast is produced by me, Rachel Hollis. It's edited by Andrew Weller and Jack Noble.
Going up. Prices keep going up these days. It feels like being on an elevator that only goes up. Going up. But not at Metro. We're pushing the down button. Going down. We lowered prices and give you a 5-year price guarantee on talk, text, and data. Get one line of 5G data for $40, period. That's 20% lower. Only at Metro.
5-year guarantee on eligible plans. Exclusions apply. See website for details. Not available at Metro with T-Mobile in the past 6 months. Tax applies.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Commercial Insurance. Business owners meet Progressive Insurance. They make it easy to get discounts on commercial auto insurance and find coverages to grow with your business. Quote in as little as 7 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company. Coverage provided and serviced by affiliated and third-party insurers. Discounts and coverage selections not available in all states or situations.